Heather. Thank you so much for joining me this afternoon. I'm so happy to have this opportunity to speak with you about your experiences as the leader of BBE, an innovative supply chain company here in Canada. I'm also going to ask you some questions about your view on the career profile for professionals who would like to get into the industry that you work in.
Thanks for having me. I'm honored to be part of this process, and it's great to be here, so thank you.
I know a little bit about the business. I know the full name for BBE is Brandenburg Expediting, and the company was founded in 1977 in Yellowknife. Yeah, that's right. I was so excited to learn, actually amazed to know that in just 40 years, the company has grown into one of Canada's leading full-service logistics companies, and is now located at the new facility at Edmonton International Airport. So I'm curious to know, Heather, as the CEO of this business, what is your vision?
Well, I'll give you a little bit of a background on what we do. So BBE we started in Yellowknife in 1977, and our main purpose at that time was looking after the minerals industry. So people who were exploring for gold and diamonds and things like that on the tundra up in the north. And so we used to help them expedite their supplies and people into remote places. Over the years, our company has changed as the diamond mining industry really took off, and we got to grow from being sort of a small local expediter to being a logistics provider and a supply chain provider. So we had to eventually move south, which is Edmonton is our southern location. We still have locations in the north, and being at the Edmonton International Airport allows us to really be a connective hub for freight that comes in from all over the world and connects into Edmonton is the gateway to the north, into the north, so we can still provide services and goods to our customer base, who are oftentimes located in really remote communities.
That's great to know. And also, what sets BBE apart from its competitions?
I think what sets us apart is that our tagline is global reach, northern roots, and we really know how to get cargo into the last mile. So generally, deliveries where there's no roads, sometimes there's no airstrips. We're really good at getting things into the hard to reach places. And over time, as our customers' needs have grown and their supply chains have grown, we're really good at doing a lot of other things as well. So we can move cargo from all over the world. We're really good at packaging. We're very good at procurement. So we've really grown with our customers' needs. And I think that sort of sets us apart from other companies, because we understand that the last mile is very important for our customers, but the last mile for a lot of customers can be right here in Edmonton, and it's just as important for them too. So we look after the customers' needs, whatever their last mile is.
With the pandemic situation arising because of COVID-19, many employers are struggling with operations within the limits. I wonder, what is BBE doing these days?
I think that with COVID-19 and our business, we've kind of been caught in the eye of the storm in many respects. With the Edmonton International Airport, we're no longer accepting international flights. And a big part of our business is we are an agent for international air carriers in Edmonton. So we've really had to sort of rescale our air cargo handling operations to meet the demand, which is a lot less than what we were used to seeing in the air cargo business. The other interesting part of how COVID-19 is affecting our supply chains is that in the territories, so in the Northwest Territories and Nunavut, they've closed their borders because remote communities are very delicate in nature. Often there's no hospitals. Sometimes they're operating with a remote health center. So they're very careful about what travels in and out of those communities. So we've had to sort of change the way we support those communities now, and it's really, we're seeing a lot of cargo flying into the north, which is good because they still have to get goods and food, pharmaceuticals, and those types of products, anything that's critical into those communities. So it's changed a lot for us in a very short period of time. But with a different focus, we're really helping to make sure that the critical items are being delivered, and that right now, that's really what matters for us and for the customers.
That's right. And are your workers working within social distancing, I'm assuming, and some work from home, I guess? Yeah.
Yeah, we've got there's a number of employees that are, if they can work from home, they are working from home. There's some of our warehouse employees and the aviation support crews are still working on site. So we have our hygiene protocols and social distancing measures in place to allow them to work safely in and around their work environments. But to a lesser degree, they still have to come into work, and they've got essential cargoes that need to move, so they are coming in. So it's a bit of blend of both, but really trying to do what we can do to make sure that we're, everybody's staying as safe as possible and keeping our customers safe as possible.
I am really curious, Heather. You're the first ever 100 influential women in Canadian supply chain. How did you get there? Can you tell us about your history and how you became the leader of BBE?
Love her since I was a kid. And to kind of go back to the beginning of time, somewhere in the mid-'80s, my dad bought Braden Expediting from the Braden and the Burry, our founders. So my dad owned the company from the mid-'80s until 2007. So when I was a young girl growing up, every summer job I had was at BBE. In those days, our only location was in Yellowknife. So I got to load airplanes and work, at the airport and really get into the expediting side of the business, and I loved it. From there, I went to university. I worked for the Forzani Group for a couple of years after university and traveled and did all the things young people do. And eventually I came back to work for BBE right around the time that my dad sold the business. So he retired in 2007 and sold the business to an Inuit organization. So I stayed and I worked as a logistics coordinator for the new owners for a number of years. And I think really for me, my career was, I was really good at logistics. I really understood the market. It was, in our family for my whole life. And so the new owners, they asked if I wanted to run BBE. And at that time, I didn't have the management skill set to do it. But they believed that, with, my passion for the work, I could learn the role. So I took over as president of BBE in 2011. And at that time, I quickly enrolled into an MBA program so that I could get the tools that I needed to learn how to run the business. The central operations I knew. And from there, my career really has been following the path of the business growth, making sure the company has the right partners in place and moving from there. I was asked by somebody in the Northwest Territories who was involved with the Supply Chain Management Association of Canada if I'd be interested in volunteering for the National Board of Directors. And at that time, I spent 3 years on the board with the SCMA, who is now the SCC, and got involved in our industry from a volunteer level, because I think there's the supply chain industry is very important, and it's important for us as practitioners to put our time and effort into our industry associations. So I'm not sure if it was from that point of view that that's where I got recognized on that list, but I've spent, I think, pretty much 15 years in the logistics industry, and in my part of the world, there's not a lot of women, so I guess I do stand out a little bit. So it's been an interesting trajectory, and I've enjoyed the journey, and I still love the work portion of what we do, but I really love the leadership side, and I enjoy the business side. A couple of years ago, myself and the management team at BBE, we had an opportunity to buy the business from the parent company, and so we did that. And now I'm also an owner of the company, which is really interesting considering it was in our family when I was growing up, and now it's part of my family going forward. So it's definitely part of my roots too.
That's a great story. Thank you for telling us that. I'm also interested in knowing that being a female leader, being a leader of an innovative company, as well as in this challenging economic environment that we're in right now, what is the biggest challenge that you have to overcome to grow your career?
I think my biggest personal challenge has been, where I started from to where I am today. I was really lazy out of the gate in terms of being a student. I didn't do well in high school, and I spent way too much time after high school upgrading. I didn't get into the program I wanted, but I ended up getting into a very small applied degree program at Mount Royal in Calgary when it was still a college. And really, I was a very lazy learner until, right into my early 30s, and everything sort of came together, and I really, I really kind of honed in on what I wanted to do. And I think the biggest challenge for me was, getting over the confidence barrier of, I don't think I'm smart enough to do this, and I don't think I'm smart enough to do that, until I realized that, I read everything I could get my hands on, and I, did everything I could to learn enough to be where I am today. So I'd say that the biggest challenge for me was, in some ways, it was my self-confidence, and, the fact that I was a really lazy teenager, and that didn't help me get, when you can make a list of all the mistakes somebody could possibly make in their career, I have made them all. And I'm lucky that I work with people who are, I believe in team. I think there's, one person is okay on their own, but when you get several minds together, it's where, things really start to become high performing. And I'm really lucky to have a network and a team that I'm part of that, support me through all of the things that I've, screwed up along the way, and they're there to, to me going. So I'm a very lucky lady.
I'm sure we all have learned a lesson or two from our mistakes. But what is the one single most important leadership quality or trait that you have relied on consistently over the years in order to achieve what you have achieved so far?
I would say the thing that I have relied on the most has been authenticity. I probably can recognize that I'm not the smartest person in the room, and I know where my strengths are, but I own them, and I make sure that I work with people who can fill in, around me to make sure we can get the job done. I've made every mistake imaginable, but the one thing for me is that I am very passionate about the business, and sometimes that's really good, and sometimes that can be really bad, but it's consistent all the time. And I think whether it's our customers or, our employees or, suppliers, that's the one thing that they can for sure ground in on, is the fact that I'm passionate and I am who I am. And it's, and I think that's the greatest, gift to have, is if you can just be authentic and be yourself. You can handle what comes at you if you just allow yourself the time to, be who you are.
It's authentic leadership. I hear you. As a human resources consultant and instructor at a university, I have met many career professionals. And it's because of the line of work I do. I'm always passionate to learn about people's careers and how successful people achieve their dreams. So Heather, from your perspective, what are some of the job searching advice or career tips you can offer to professionals who like to work in logistics or supply chain?
Depending on what stage someone's at in their career search journey, whether they've narrowed down an industry or a job that they think they'd like to do, I would offer to people to really, if they don't know what they want to do, and there's kind of at that beginning point, they should follow their curiosities, whatever sets them off. Because if you follow your curiosity, you'll always find your passion. And once you've discovered where your passion lies, it's not about work and it's not about a job anymore. It's about doing something you love, and that makes the day go by, and it makes the days, and it makes your career go by, and it becomes something meaningful for you. So I would say for people, if they're never really sure, or they haven't, you'll know when you find it. That's the thing about passion. So if you haven't found it, keep following your curiosities and you'll find it. The other thing I would say for people is, spend some time on yourself. Do some self-personality tests. Really, Myers-Briggs has they're out there, they're online, and they're free. Figure out where your strengths are, and from there, things become easy. If you can play into your strengths, and you can put that to work, at your work, you're going to be good at what you do. You're playing onto things that you're naturally good at, and the outcome is kind of where you want it to be. I've had I have this great story about this fellow who worked for us as an air cargo agent at the counter. And I can remember, this was years ago, asking him, where are your career ambitions? Like, what do you want to do with your life? And he said, well, to be very honest, he's like, I go to night school and I really want to be an accountant. And I thought, why don't you come and join us on the accounting team? And so he moved up into accounting, and he's had an incredibly successful career. He's now an auditor with the government. And, he was a numbers guy, but he was working in a customer service role, and it just wasn't his natural suit. And if you can find out where your passion is, where your strengths lie, that's the road to go down. And it's really about, it's about being authentic to yourself. Don't try to go down a road that's a struggle for you. Go down the path that you can really, be successful, play into your strengths.
That's right. When I talk to people about career choices and job searching tips in general, I always tell them that the first step of finding a right job starts with yourself. It's all about that self-reflection and then the right career planning. Supply chain is actually an ever-growing occupation or profession. I would like to know, what are the 2 typical positions that your company, BBE, hires, and what are the career path for these 2 positions?
So the 2 most common jobs we hire for are, the first one is a logistics coordinator, and that's somebody who works with multiple parties to organize a delivery. And it's generally working with many different people, suppliers, customers, to get one thing done. So logistics coordinator is one of our big hires. The other one is a warehouse agent. And so those are people that work handling the cargo, building up loads, doing the receiving process, and some of the inventory management behind it. The career path for a logistics coordinator, for example, I've seen people join in on the job as a logistics coordinator and move through to being a supervisor, a manager, a director, and now one of them is one of our owners.
Oh, wow.
That's a really interesting, but she loves the business, and her passion is here, and she's really bright, and took every opportunity to learn more and to do more. So she's really kind of the example. But we've had other people start as logistics coordinators and move into sales roles.
Right.
Because in our business, if you understand how it works, you can deal with the customer, understand their needs, and work in business development. So that's another career path that comes out of that. When it comes to warehouse agents, I've seen a number of transitions from that job, but again, learning kind of the hands-on on the ground part of the job has led to various paths to supervisor, management, director level. I started off as a warehouse agent, and I'm the president, so that gives you another example of how it's gone. But we've had people move into sales roles for our customers because they know the business so well. So it's kind of an interesting thing where the way we look at a career in logistics and in the supply chain, where you start is probably not where you're going to finish. But if you have a really good understanding of the job itself, you can understand how other people can use it. So you move into the sales side. If you're interested in the numbers, you can move into the accounting, the operations management side of things. So really it's the understanding of the businesses is where everybody starts, and it kind of grows from there. So our logistics coordinators, we like to draw primarily because we've got such a big hiring base in Edmonton. We like to look at the McEwen program, the BCom. Students that have gone into the supply chain stream are generally ones that we're interested in. If people have the SCMP designation, that's another. That's not a must-have, but it's a really nice to have. We like to have, people, if they've got a bachelor's degrees, that's always helpful, but it's not a necessity. So what we tend to do is when we're hiring for a job, we can't train for somebody's attitude and willingness to want to learn. They either have it or they don't. So we can train the job part of it, but what we really are looking for is the type of person who will dig in, get into the opportunities, work hard. And if they have, if they've got post-secondary, that's better, but it is not always a necessity. Sometimes we just hire really cool people who have the right attitude, come in and do the job. And so, and we're a people business. It is all about the people. So, limiting it to the education, some people don't have a formal education, but they've got bright futures. So we look at that too.
That's great to know. And in this ever-changing business world, what are some of the must-have skills that you think supply chain professionals or just professionals in general must possess these days?
The must-have is people must understand how to use systems. So you have to be proficient in how to use technology. And if you have a high adaptive quotient, you can learn other people's systems. And our business is so centered around not just our technology, but our customers' technology. So that's table stakes these days. So if people are considering the supply chain as a profession, technology is a key component to that, and their ability to adapt with changing systems and the demand of what's going on with our industry, because it's digitizing fast. I really urge people to understand just different software, being able to get in there, figure things out. It's important. In our business alone, just based on the customers we represent, some of our agents use up to 40 different systems.
Oh, wow.
So it is very important. WestJet has a system, KLM Air France has a system. We have systems, and we have to be able to work within our customer systems and our own. IT is everything. So I think that's, if one thing I can stress when it comes to, job search and people honing in on their skills, they have to make sure that they've got that strong base, because it's critical.
Those are definitely great career advice. Thank you. And I know that you have talked to many job seekers yourself. What will be the one skill set that you definitely recommend our job seekers to work on?
I've interviewed many people in my day, and I've, made some great hires, and I've made some hires that haven't been such good fits. But I think the one thing I'd like to remind people of is, back to the trait that I hold near and dear. If you're going into a job interview, be yourself, because you want to be, you want to see, it's as much as about you as it is about the company. And if you have a fit on both sides, it's a struggle and there's rub. And if you don't have to go down that road, don't go down that road. Think about yourself. Think about what you want. Think about, the things that fire you up and the things that, you're good at, and go to the table with those things and be really honest, because you know what, it makes that path forward smooth, and just be okay with who you are and be who you are.
Heather, you have raised so many good points today. First, it was about knowing yourself, being passionate and authentic to yourself, and knowing what you love doing. And then you talked about the importance of technology knowledge and skills, always learning something new, and also be confident of who you are and what you have to offer. During this time, right now it's a difficult time. A lot of professionals are working from home or are looking for work. Some of you have reached out to me and said you find it difficult to look for work because not many companies are posting jobs. There aren't that many face-to-face interactive networking opportunities like in the past. Don't give up. What Heather and I are trying to demonstrate is that this is a way of networking. Networking happens every day, can happen in so many different methods. Just because the face-to-face interactions don't exist doesn't mean there is not a way to connect with other people. Right? Heather and I were connected through a mutual colleague, a mutual professional, and we clicked really well, as you have this recording from our conversation today. There will be an end to this pandemic situation. I totally believe so. And Heather, in your opinion, do you see the world of business going to be changed after this crisis?
I can't speak on behalf of everybody else, but I can speak on behalf of our business. I think you learn as much or more about your business when you have to figure out how to retool and serve in this situation. And I think businesses will come back differently, and they should. And I think this is the time people are really going to think about the way we've always done things. Is that the way we want to do them going forward? And I think we're going to see people making some different decisions based on what is the new normal, and what have they been doing that they were maybe not always that excited about, that they could now take that opportunity to do differently going forward. And I think we're going to see a lot of that. More efficiencies in the workplace, things that make a little more sense. I'm going to see a lot of streamlining personally, and that is for sure the case in our business.
It's about efficiency and effectiveness. I personally believe in those. Thank you. Those are all the questions I have for you this afternoon, Heather. Is there anything that you would like to share with us that we have not touched on, or anything about yourself or the company that you would like to share with the audience?
I would say, the only other little fun fact I could, I'll throw out there is, our business is very much supply chain driven, and we offer as many verticals in the supply chain as for service offerings as we can that make sense to our customers. But the one fun thing we've been doing since the beginning of 2018 is we've taken how we deliver cargo, and we've built a software here in Edmonton, and we UBBE.com. And so it takes all the things that we know in our head and allows our customers to ship to all the places online. And it's something that we built on our own through, we actually have some people who live up north that have gone to school in Edmonton, and they're proud Northerners, and they helped us to build the technology, and now they're helping us to evolve the technology. So I would say, I love what I do. I love the supply chain, and it's, seeing what we see today is definitely not what's going to take us forward. So we're spending lots of time thinking about how to digitize our business and do things so that our users are in control, and they're able to drive their own bus. And I'll tell you, it's probably the most exciting time in our industry, as long as I can remember in my career right now. And I'm super excited about the future. And I think if people are considering joining the supply chain, it's a great time to do that, because it's changing, it's fast, and it's exciting. So
thank you so much, Heather. I cannot express enough how happy I am having this opportunity to talk to you, and how grateful the audience and myself are for you to take time out of your busy schedule to give us such great advice. And in conclusion, for our audience, if you'd like to follow the company via social media, here are the links.